Well, let's talk. Well, first of all, welcome to the Monkey Shine Lab. For a change, I'm not wearing pants. I have a couple of things I want to talk about it to start with about Diecast. Huzzah! Yeah, let's talk about Diecast because what's out there right now is very slim to none unless you're hitting the pegs extremely early, at least in my neighborhood. Don't know what's going on in yours, but even when you do manage to find something that you're looking for out of these cases now, you have legitimate issues with product quality control. I don't want to seem like I'm picking on Mattel right now, but I am. Okay, in a situation where you are going to raise the price of your product, then the consumer base will maybe expect to see a little less paint job tamp work like these two here. That is going to change the desirability down the line for people who do in-package collecting. And if you do in-package collecting, how are you to know that they aren't just handing you a bogus car on the card side? Because I've found that a couple of times. If you go back in my earlier videos, I had a discussion of where the molds were being separated on the fenders and etc., where the paint was like getting hung up and globbing and making a severe irregularity on the fender, and they just do that on the card side because they know you're not going to pull it out of the package. Well, I kind of go against the grain on that one, and sometimes I take things out of the package. Lately, too, especially because, as you see around me, I always joke about it, but I have limited amounts of space in here. So any little bits of airspace now that I can eliminate and still keep a good collection, I'm going to do that. In the case of Diecast, that means taking it out of the package because I'm over keeping stuff in packages for my own purpose. I'm not going to say that I don't have a stash of cars that I'm holding on to, but this is more, sort of historical stuff that I'm hanging on to until my grandkids can get old enough that they can make their decisions on what they want to do with it. Certain things like, the Mars lander. I have cars like that set aside for, the families so that when they grow up, it's a little like somebody handed you a moon landing, or, me, because I'm old enough, a moon landing Mattel Hot Wheel, like here's the lander or the moon buggy that they did use on subsequent trips up there. I'm just hanging on to it for that. Okay, I am not otherwise hanging on to a ton of cars in package. I have two more pieces of Diecast that I picked up that I wanted to talk about. These are otherwise the exact same car from the exact same package, but one has a set of tires on it that's sort of greenish, the top, and then the bottom set, it's kind of that lighter mud. It's not that great a variation, but it did seem, I've seen several of these. I've not seen one with the sort of greenish tires, and they are seemingly, they are that way, they are that washed on all four of them. You know, I mean, it doesn't look like there's any great, oh, excuse me. It doesn't look like there's any great variation on the tires on the inside or outside. So anyway, as another example of quality control, I happen to be able to grab that as something else to kind of discuss. Nazar has found, I think it was on the C10, the recent C10s, that some had a dark wash on the front grille and around the headlamps, and then others did not. And so, and he showed examples of those on his channel. This was a little while, at least 4 months or so. But he was showing some variations that he had found. When I look at these cars now, I'm much more focused on them, and it's now kind of bled over to my wife's habits too. She says that she will be picking up less and less cars if they're not finished, you know, at least to bring home for our fun and collection. We'll probably continue to pick up cars when they're on the discount at Fred Meyer, and we can score a bunch for the kids' baskets and all that other stuff that we do here in our home. Now I would like to show you something which I am very proud of. This is something that I just picked up, and I just wanted to cluck and crow about it for just a second. This is a Marvel Comics Essentials, as you can read. What these are a black and white reproduction of a certain book or run or character that Marvel did a little while ago. They're out of print now, and when I was working back in the Midwest, I managed to procure the first two, and then when I got out here, I think I found the third one out here when I got out west. And many years later now, I have finally found volume 4 at a reasonable price. If you look at these online, people want exorbitant fees for these. But this is the work of a whole bunch of authors, but the main authors, when I was reading the comics, the authors and artists were Marv Wolfman, Gene Colan, and this stuff with John Buscema, I don't know if I read any of that or not. I have originals of these books somewhere, but this volume 4, one of the reasons why I didn't pick it up initially is because they're not the comic books. These are some post comic book stuff that they posted as like a pulp magazine kind of thing, like Eerie or Creepy or Vampirella used to be, which was to say that they were printed on pulp paper and very cheap ink. And that's the way you got a lot of lurid content, was printed that way. And so hence they called them the pulps. And that's where pulp fiction comes from as well. The pulps were lurid detective stories and gangster stories and horror that was printed on really cheap paper. But anyway, this is not printed on cheap paper, and it's not cheap to find. And yes, I of the stuff that was in the Marvel comic books, which I collected, I do like having them in color. But a lot of this stuff was, if I'm remembering correctly, the stuff that was presented in the Tomb of Dracula magazine, Dracula Lives and Frankenstein's Monster here, were presented originally as these black and white, oh, look at that, Radar Toys. You know, these folks treat me so right. Radar Toys over on 1440 Lancaster Drive Northeast in Salem, Oregon here. They also have a great online store if you're out of town or out of state. Really good stuff. Also a location in Eugene. That's their new sticker. Cool. Anyway, Radar Toys managed to procure a full set of these. So there was volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4 sitting on the counter when I walked in the other morning to make an exchange. And it stopped me dead in my tracks. Okay. And Michaela, the salesperson on duty, she saw the look in my eye on this thing. Okay, and we discussed it. I talked about it briefly. I was like, oh wow, that's the one I don't have, and you know, all of this. But I did the dumb thing of like, you know, it's $20. And again, this is a book I have not seen anywhere, let alone in a pristine, I mean, brand new condition. There's not a pen mark. There is not a scuff, a scratch, nothing on these books. The reason is that Radar does not buy, they don't sell resale trade paperbacks. But this was a collection. The guy had these bagged and boarded since the day he got them. So this has never really been read. It's never been touched. And if you are an appreciator at all of these artists, to see the stuff done in black and white, to see it inked, but not colored in, it's breathtaking. And the difference, I think, in the way that the material is absorbed when you're reading it in black and white is, to me, it's more correct, if that makes any sense. That especially because these pulp magazines that were printed later on to sort of continue the characters after their comic book runs were over at Marvel, the stuff was done for big kids. But this is where I learned to read. This is where I've learned that there were larger words and that there was poetry in wording, that there could be something transformative in a graphic content like this. And not graphic in terms of salaciousness or bloodletting or gore or anything like that. What I'm saying is that it really it was something that I grew up on, and as you can see, I'm really affected to have this finally in my collection now on my shelf is fantastic. I'm sorry to go on so long about it, but if you do run across these, I want you to know what you're looking at, because every once in a while you'll see them in a used store. I have seen Andre come across these in Goodwill. And so if you see that big black band down the spine with white essential written down it like that, make a pause and maybe pick it up. If it's in good shape, if these are in good shape, and anywhere $20 or under, you're getting a score. You're getting a complete run of something. And I have these for Fantastic Four. I have them for some of the Avengers runs that I really loved. It's also a great way of introducing kids to characters without having to hand them a really expensive version of it. Well, in this case, because it's Tomb of Dracula, yes, it's super expensive. That is not to say that everything that came out in this line has gone up in value, by the way. Please. I just mean, when you see these, they are worth picking up. If you're a fan of comic books, give it a look. Anyway, let's do something else. Turning into my dad after I drink a carbonated drink, little thing of water before I start filming, and I'm doing the, the hell. It doesn't matter how far you travel. It doesn't matter. You're still carrying your own genetics. I want to talk about one more toy here before I leave you for today. I have totally railed against these things, and I told Rusty absolutely not. No. But things have been slim in the Diecast area, and so I do kind of let myself wander here and there to Bakugan. And so here's your Bakugan segment for today. Yeah, Rusty, I did. As you can see, it's $4.50. I picked up a Cubbo. Okay. They were I think they were $5 at Ross. And finally, when they dropped to where I could find one for 50 cents less, I pulled the trigger finally, just to kind of see what they were, get one out of the package. And I have no use for the package or to, give you a tray shot. Yeah, I agree. But, that was Lambo sneezing, if you could hear it. It was $4.50. Oh God! And Zev has my knife. Hang on. Okay. Lent my craft knife, my cutting knife, to my son the other day, and he did not return it. Find you later. Always retract your blade. If you're just joining us here on the program, we advise that you never use blades when you're home alone, or that you observe proper tool etiquette. Always retract the blade when you're finished with it. Okay, so I got the top hat bare. It's a Cubbo. I'm not proud. But one thing I did wonder about was the hat and all that. I was like, okay, well, how is this one gonna fold, right? I thought maybe the hat would go down into his head, but that's not what happens. And then, I don't get it. I don't want to waste a lot of time on this because it is what it is, and I should have I should put these segments outside of some of the others so that you know whether or not you want to watch this. I trick you into watching some Bakugan sometimes with something else cool. One more thing. Recently in the comments of one of our videos, there was a discussion begun very innocently of a political nature. And I would just like to say this. We here talk about toys. We talk about the good and bad points of toys. We can talk about the blame inherent in a toy by a company. But I don't want to get into a discussion of world politics or economics here. That's not what we're about. We're about friendship and enjoying things around here. So I apologize. I was rather blunt with the person who said it. I said, we don't discuss politics here, was how I responded to the comment in the comment section. And I didn't erase it, and I didn't make it invisible, and I'm not about that. So I guess if you're going to say something, you're going to say something. I may respond to it, I may not, or my wife. But we try to keep things of a topical nature here. And so that's all I wanted to say about that. We appreciate each and every one of you. And I think that interaction, we suddenly saw that I do notice these things. We lost a subscriber right after that interaction. And I couldn't help but think that it was because of that interaction that we lost this particular subscriber who had commented before. I didn't mean anything harsh in the way I said it. I wanted to put it as plainly and as non-judgmentally as I could. We don't discuss politics here. Some channels choose to. We don't. I think you guys come here to get away from reality for a little while. So, in the spirit of that, you have my promise to stay as far away from reality as possible. Anyway, thank you very much, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.